Hello, the Pioneer viewers. Today, I will share with you new developments in the Russian-Ukrainian war. The defenses line of the Russian army on the Kherson front line is almost collapsing. Ukrainian troops are getting closer and closer to their goal of reaching the Crimean peninsula. While all this is happening, the losses of the Russian army are increasing. The Ukrainian army is preparing for the great victory step by step. Strategic targets are in the crosshair of the Ukrainian army. Ukrainian troops have intensified their attacks to seize areas under the control of the Russian army. Russian sources are also disturbed by the situation. As we mentioned in our previous reports, the Russian army has come under great pressure due to the events. This pressure has grown considerably. The pressure of the Ukrainian army on the Russian army and the pressure of the Russian sources on the Russian army puts Russian army under the two fires. So what happened on the Kherson front line? What are the losses of the Russian troops? Let's take a look at the developments together. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss the reports prepared by the Pioneer team. I also read all your comments. Please help us improve our content and help us improve ourselves for you. Let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer reports. Recently, Russian sources have shared quite remarkable reports with the public. As you know, the Russian army is trying to stop the Ukrainian army's offensive east of the Dnieper River in the Kherson region. Ukrainian troops are trying to suppress the positions of the Russian troops with the tactical attacks. Especially the attacks of the Ukrainian artillery units reduces the defense capacity of the Russian army. But not only Ukrainian artillery units, Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles are also carrying out critical operations in the region, causing intense damage to the Russian army's defense line. According to the latest reports of the Russian sources, Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles have been carrying out critical attacks against many Russian armored vehicles in recent days. As you know, the most important advantage of the Russian army on the front line is its armored vehicles. However, the attacks of the Ukrainian army eliminate this advantage of the Russian army. As you already know, there are heavy losses of the Russian troops on the Donetsk front line. Most of these losses are Russian armored vehicles. According to the latest reports of the Russian sources, the Ukrainian army has developed a very striking tactic. As we mentioned at the beginning of our reports, the Russian army is launching attacks to stop the advance of the Ukrainian army. The situation encountered during these attacks shows us much strategic moves of the Ukrainian army have developed. According to the reports, the Ukrainian army has created a minefield using unmanned aerial vehicles. Unmanned aerial vehicles were placed based on the routes of the Russian army's advance. According to the allegations, bomb traps were placed on the Ukrainian army drones. Moreover, the unmanned aerial vehicles were camouflaged in accordance with the terrain conditions. So the allegations are in this direction. Our Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles are said to be painted in harmony with the color of the terrain. As you can imagine, Russian forces failed to notice this trap of the Ukrainian army. Thanks to this clever plan of the Ukrainian army, it is reported that many Russian soldiers and Russian armored vehicles were destroyed. It is remarkable that the Russian forces realized this strategy of the Ukrainian army quite late, because it is one of the main tasks of the Russian intelligence. Intelligence units have to learn the activities of the enemy in advance. This is their main duty. Otherwise, the existence of the intelligence units is not important. However, the failure of the Russian intelligence to achieve any success in this regard clearly shows that Russian intelligence is weak. The Ukrainian army has breathed new life into the history of modern warfare by using the unmanned aerial vehicles technologies since the beginning of the war. The Ukrainian army not only uses unmanned aerial vehicles in the air, by using these vehicles in different ways and strategies, the Ukrainian army, which has shown that it has a very clever staff intelligence, has achieved a great superiority over the Russian armed forces. I think this strategy of the Ukrainian army is quite clever. Using unmanned aerial vehicles as landmines, it is a great and clever trapping method. The Ukrainian army should be congratulated for developing this strategy. We know that the Crimean peninsula is the main target of the Ukrainian army's offensive in the Kherson region. However, this situation is not limited to the Kherson front line. In addition to the Kherson front line, the Ukrainian army is carrying out critical attacks on the Crimean peninsula. The Crimean peninsula cannot be captured only by land. It must also be targeted from the sea. only land-based attacks will be incomplete. Therefore, being aware of this situation, the Ukrainian army is also targeting the Crimean peninsula with missiles. According to the recent reports, the Ukrainian army has recently launched a combined attacks on the Crimean peninsula using 2 ATACMs, 3 unmanned boats, and possibly the Storm Shadow missiles. These reports were obtained from Russian sources. We can say that a rather large attack occurred. If these allegations are true, this is the first ATACM's attacks by Ukrainian army on the Crimean peninsula. Ukrainian sources also share reports that these attacks have taken place. According to the Ukrainian sources, the Ukrainian army carried out a major attack on Tarnakhl promontory. According to reports, 17 Russian soldiers and 5 Russian armored vehicles were destroyed during these attacks. It is claimed that the Ukrainian army's attack was directed against the Russian air defense regiment in Sevastopol. According to the reports, during these attacks that started in the morning, the Russian Air Defense Regiment noticed the use of unmanned naval vehicles. However, there is no report on how the unmanned naval vehicles were used. Although Russian sources confirm that there were attacks, they don't really provide any information about casualties. The only information we have about Russian casualties is the information provided by the Ukrainian sources. The attacks of the Ukrainian army in the south are increasing day by day. The Russian army has started to have a great difficulty in repelling these attacks. The effect of heavy losses is great. The majority of the losses are caused by the artillery activity of the Ukrainian army. Therefore, ammunition assistance of great importance for the Ukrainian army to continue its attacks on the region. If sufficient ammunition is provided, the Ukrainian army will enter the Crimean peninsula faster than expected. As we mentioned, this will only happen if the support of the Ukrainian army increases. This support will increase the losses of the Russian army and accelerate the advance of the Ukrainian army. Let's talk about the losses of the Russian army. According to the latest reports, the losses of the Russian army are as follows: 300,810 military personnel, 5,211 tanks, 9,804 armored vehicles, 7,227 artillery systems, 844 rocket launcher system, 562 air defense systems, 321 combat aircraft, 324 helicopters, 1,546 cruise missiles, 20 warship and assault boats, 1 submarine, 9,590 vehicles and fuel tanks, and 1,016 special equipments. So what do you think? Do you think the drone strategy of the Ukrainian army is successful? What do you think about the alleged failure of the Russian intelligence? And do you think the Ukrainian army's offensive against the Crimean Peninsula will continue? Do you think that ammunition support will be provided? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about your comment.